Hi everybody. A few weeks ago, I posted a video expressing how scared we were, I guess, about the future, about the next season that God is bringing us into, and that He has to show up or we're not going to make it. I wanted to share that with you because I know many of you are in seasons kind of the same, afraid of what's to come, or you've already made it through a season like that, or you will be going through a season of uncertainty. And I wanted to share that, and I'm really surprised that at least one of our friends or loved ones didn't come forward and say this, because they are good at keeping us in check with our thought processes. And I encourage you to have friends that will keep you in check, that will encourage you, but also say, hey, now, here's a different perspective. And it's really good for you to be open to a different perspective. It helps you to grow. So we really appreciate that we have people like that in our lives. Because we are open to that. We know that God will use people to speak to you whatever season you're in. And so we are always open to words of advice, and we look to see if they do apply. We look at that they're coming from a place of love. So we really appreciate people in our lives like that. But I'm really surprised that no one commented on this, that God is more concerned with your character and your growth than with your comfort level. Because I was going on and on about how uncomfortable it is, how we just don't know how we're going to make it, but we have faith that God's going to show up and He's going to do what only He can do. And I want to tell you that He is in the midst of doing that. So we're super grateful for that. It's a day by day thing. Like, Lord, how are you going to provide for us today? And He's been providing for us in ways that we didn't expect, which is really cool, because you really get to see God in the midst of that when it's beyond your control, beyond what you can do. And you get to see what your good dad is doing for you. And we know there's more to come. But we also are very aware that many of you are going through something where you're not seeing God show up yet. And I wanted to just express to you that when you're uncomfortable, when you're in a place where your human nature wants to fear and to be afraid, and maybe to even be angry with God, that is an opportunity that God will use, because He is a good dad. God is more concerned with your growth in your character, because He's trying to make you into His image, right? That's being born again, means that we're being transformed into and a renewal of our mind, right? And so He's trying to teach us things, and He's trying to grow us into looking like Him, like true sons and daughters of His. Because there's a whole lot of junk that's in us from the baggage, the things, how we grew up, or the things that happened to us in life, or different mindsets of the world that have been infiltrating us. And God's trying to change us for the good and help grow us, right? And it's uncomfortable. Just like if you go to the gym and you work out and you haven't been working out, you're sore and you don't even want to go back to the gym and keep doing this, because you're not seeing results yet, but it's uncomfortable and your body doesn't like it and your muscles are sore. But then as you keep doing it and you keep growing and you lose the weight or you gain the muscle, and you get to see the results, and the gain is worth the pain, right? So that is what God is doing to us in this season. And He might be doing that to you, or allowing that to happen to you in your season. If you look at the story of Job, we think, what kind of God would allow Satan to do that to Job? Job lost a lot. The devil just really gut punched him and took away all his kids in one day, took away all his finances, took away his health, right? And so he could sit there, he could turn on God, but instead, him staying true to his faith, he wasn't happy, and he voiced that he wasn't happy. He, he was miserable and sad, and even his wife told him to curse God and die, but he didn't. He said, no, nothing is going to stop my faith. And so we're all going to be tested. I believe that's in the Bible for a reason. Not because God is a sadistic dad, but because he wants to test our faith. It's easy for us to say we believe, and then at the first sign of trouble, we say, no, God is, I'm mad at God, or God doesn't exist, or turn our back on God. So he is testing our faith to see if we're real. And we're all going to go through it. We're all going to be tested with what he gives us. And what's really encouraging to me, though, in this is that he's not just testing us. Jesus said to Peter, I am praying for you. That Satan wants to sift you like wheat. It means Satan's come to test you. And I'm praying that you don't give up on your faith. That when you turn back, and he says, when you turn back to me, strengthen your brothers. So Jesus already knew. He's like, I'm praying for you. You're going to make it through this test. You're going to fail. But when you come back, I'm going to give you the strength, and you strengthen your brothers with that strength. And that's why we go through what we do. As another reason for us to give hope to the next person when we make it through it. When we can help strengthen someone else's faith when it's wavering in the tough times, and then they can make it through it with their faith intact. That's why we go through these things. We comfort those with the comfort that God gives us, with the strength that he gives us through this season, the storm that we go through, and we come out the other side in. Going back to refining us through the fire, I want to say this, that scripture talks about gold is refined through the fire, through the trials, the fiery trials. And every single one of us has to go through these trials, and it refines us, and it strengthens us. But also, when I just talked about the baggage that we have in life, all the way that we respond to people when we're feeling down, and the way that we look at people through the lens of hurt, all that has to be boiled out of us. Back in the day, the goldsmiths, how they would refine the fire that they get to get out all the impurities of the gold to make it pure gold. And the most priceless of all gold was they would heat it up over a flame. They would boil it, and all the impurities would come to the top, and they would swipe it off and throw away the impurities and boil it again, and keep going through this process until it was pure, refined gold, the most precious of all gold. And the way that they would know that it was done and there were no more impurities is they could see themselves, exactly their reflection, when they looked into the gold, and they could see themselves looking back at themselves. And that is what God is doing right now. As he's boiling all these impurities out, he's looking at us until he can see himself in us. Then he knows that the refining process is complete. And I just want to give you encouragement that he's doing something good. If you are uncomfortable, if you are scared, if you are angry, if you are grieving, if you're sad, he understands these emotions. He gave us these emotions, but he says hundreds of times in scripture is to not be afraid, to not fear, and to have courage. And he puts all these things in there for us to read as a reminder, not because you're wrong, because you're fearing. That's an emotion. We need to see it for what it is, but what we do with that emotion, when we bring it to God, we realize he is with us always through every single thing. And we say, okay, what do you want me to learn in this moment? I'm feeling these emotions. What do you want to say to me in this? How do you want me to feel? I'm handing this fear to you. You say not to fear, but to have courage. So what do you want me to learn about you, about myself, about everything around me? Help me to learn a lesson from this, because God doesn't waste anything. He is using this to help you, to grow you, because he's a good dad and he's trying to make you into more like his image. So how can you be more like Jesus in your situation? So I just want to share with you that that's what we're learning right now in this season. I'm learning a lot about myself, about the good, the bad, the ugly, and I'm surrendering the bad and the ugly and trying to learn from this. And I'm just going to pray for you too. But remember that Jesus is also praying for you. You're going to get through this, and you're going to get through this stronger, and you're going to get through this more like Jesus if you just keep surrendering that. I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.